Abba Binyamin says, if the eye was given permission to see, no creature would be able to withstand the abundance and the ubiquity of demons and continue to live unaffected by them. Welcome. Oh my Lord. What is that? You look ridiculous. That is not a demon. That's a Chewbacca.
Since we were talking about, since we were talking about Halloween, and ghosts and demons and monsters,
oh my. Chewbacca though isn't really scary. Chewbacca's friendly.
He's not really scary. No,
he's not.
But my Frankenstein costume would have taken a lot more time to get into and
I really appreciate the effort. I have to say, I really appreciate the effort. So, how you doing, Rabbi?
I'm doing great. Fired up and ready for Halloween, I guess.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Halloween and Judaism, but before we even did that, we wanted to just dive into, do we even believe in witches and demons and ghouls and all that good stuff? The first quote that I shared with you is from the tractate Brachot. It's as I was doing some study about this, I was amazed at how they are all over our rabbinic texts. Abaye says that they, meaning demons, are more numerous than we. There are stories about how apparently people believed that you were particularly susceptible to a demon sighting, I guess, in the bathroom. And so people would take Abaye's mother raised a lamb to accompany him to the bathroom. I mean, is this real? Do we actually believe this stuff?
Well, whether we believe it or not, the fact is that it is all over, as you said, all over our literature. We might think that Judaism was always monotheistic, but from very early on, our biblical ancestors and rabbinic ancestors were fearful of demons and monsters. And right from Leviticus, we're told, do not turn to ghosts or inquire of early spirits in order for us to avoid being defiled by them.
And yet we do that, right? Is it Saul? Is it Shmuel or Saul?
Yeah. All right,
It's Saul who does that, right?
We start with Saul, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun, but you made me think
not
of it.
Not at all. So let's start. I'm going to suggest that there are ghosts, there are demons, there are zombies, all right, and there are monsters. Okay, 4 different categories in Jewish tradition. All of which, all of which we find really in Jewish tradition. So you mentioned what we would call a ghost, Rafa or Ruach or Hamet, all right, a ghost or a spirit or even just the dead. Ghosts and spirits of those who had died continue to dwell among us. And that's a pretty ancient belief. And all you have to do is go to Fiddler on the Roof, okay? From Sarah, the wife, the late wife of Laser Wolf, is coming back to haunt him. You mentioned.
Yeah. Sorry, real quick though, because my association with ghosts is, as you said, to haunt him. It's a very, except if they're making pottery, it's a very negative connotation with ghosts, and the idea
of always the case,
right? So that's why I'm asking, because I mean the idea of linking the memory of my loved ones with ghosts feels odd,
right? For sure, and in fact, the dead coming back to be a part or with us it can also be something very positive. You mentioned the story out of 1 Samuel, 1 Samuel 28, where King Saul, um, at his request, now keep in mind, King Saul had previously forbidden the use of ghosts, that we weren't allowed to conjure them, but he didn't know he was in trouble with the Philistines. The Philistines were causing him all kinds of difficulty. And so he doesn't know what to do. So he goes to the woman of Endor. Now, since we're along the lines of what do we call it? Uh, not current events. Boy, my brain just isn't working.
Modern?
Endora from the TV show
Oh, Endor.
Bewitched.
Endor.
Endora, the woman
Oh,
from Bewitched comes from, okay, the story of the woman of Endor. Saul goes to this woman, right, and who was a woman who was known to be able to consult ghosts, and she calls up, right, the ghost of Samuel, right, Samuel, who the prophet, right, so that Saul could say, "Help me, Samuel. Tell me what I'm supposed to do."
and it's
So in this
interesting.
case, the
Sorry,
ghost
Rabbi.
is very
It's interesting to me that he disguises himself. Right? He even knows that he's not supposed to be doing this.
well, particularly because he has been the one who said you're not allowed to do it, and
Right.
actually, the woman. All right, the woman says you're tricking me because somebody, and she doesn't know that it's Saul
Yeah.
until he says, I want to conjure up Samuel, and Samuel kind of lets
Mm.
that out, the cat out of the bag. And so, therefore, she realizes, wait, you're Saul. You're not supposed to be doing this. And he says, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I really need to know what to do. And he asks Samuel what to do. So, in this case, we've got a ghost or a spirit who's there to help us. Um, Later on, we've got ghosts could come around, but most of the time they needed some sort of living host, what often was called a Dybbuk, or an Ibor. Somebody you needed somebody to come into a living person, and that was the way in which the dead communicated
That was a
with us.
Dybbuk? Like to be? Is this possession? Is this
Uh,
being possessed?
I guess you could say that. Yeah. That
I
and
had
it
no
wasn't
idea.
necessarily for a negative. It was, but it
Yeah.
could be for a positive. That the deceased couldn't speak on their own, but could use somebody living to do that.
What is that?
So that's
Do you
good.
remember that famous story from the Talmud about? Forgive me, I don't remember where it's from. About these. Was it two children who died? I think, and they would. Oh goodness gracious! And their souls would. They'd wake up and I can't remember it. It's this great story about how whether or not we can communicate with it, not inanimate, but unbodied spirits. I didn't know that spirits would actually sometimes enter into human body. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Huh.
So let's talk about our second category, a mazik. A mazik is a demon, and a mazik, a demon, is kind of like a liminal supernatural being whose main function was to annoy or to tempt or to harm or even kill human beings. That's why sometimes, like in Yiddish, they'll use the word mazik for an annoying child. He's a little mazik. Well, that's because he's a little demon.
Oh my goodness.
And we find demons, mazikin, in rabbinic commentaries, in mystical texts, in philosophical debates. They're all over parables, proverbs. all over the place. And someone like the angel of death, okay, would be considered a demon, right? Or even Lilith, right? Lilith,
Right.
the original wife of Adam, who kind of gets pushed off to the side. And who is Lilith? Unfortunately, she gets the raw
It's
end
a
of the
bad rap.
deal.
Yeah.
She gets a bad rap as
Yeah.
a killer of babies or pregnant delivering women. Um, but in as you mentioned, demons are seen in rabbinic literature as being extremely populous. Right, the text I think that you mentioned, which is Brachot, talks about that they are so numerous that they're if your eye could see them, that you just go crazy
Right.
because there's 1,000 on your left, right, and 10,000 on your right. Right? They're all over the place. And what are they responsible for? Well, they're responsible for all kinds of interesting things like the crush of crowds. All right, so the next
Right.
time you're feeling a little constrained or in traffic, blame it on the demons, right? Or if you're feeling a
Wait,
little
before you go on,
tired,
before you go on, let me just ask you a quick question. Do you have a sense that, because as you're describing what these demons do, it sounds to me like that demons are a way to personify all the annoying stuff that's happening. And I wonder, do you feel like demons were
anthropomorphized.
imagined? Yeah, what did I say? Yes, anthropomorphized.
Personify, I think.
Do you think that demons were imagined as real beings, or were they again sort of an anthropomorphization of the nudniky annoying things?
Well, I think yes, and because I think that at that time, the idea of anthropomorphization is not. It just wasn't that way in history, and so in order to understand why am I feeling fatigue, or why are my clothes wearing out, or why am I bruising? Well, that's because there is some external uh, thing, right? In this case, a demon, right, who's causing those things. Right now, I don't think we necessarily we feel that way, and we can look back historically and call it anthropomorphism, or personification of that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So let's talk about our third category. We got zombies.
Oh, I
Zombies
love
are kind of
zombies.
interesting. Zombies
Great
are.
zombie movies.
I'm just not a big zombie guy.
You're not a zombie guy?
Nah, I'm not a scary movie guy. So
You're
what?
more of a Chewbacca guy.
I can deal with Chewbacca. Yeah, warm, fuzzy,
Right, warm and fuzzy.
friendly. Don't mess with him because he'll, take you down. Um, so we do have times where the dead rise up. Probably the most well known is the story of the dry bones out of Ezekiel 37. I actually I wanted to acknowledge it because it's so common, but I actually don't think that that's what we're talking about when we talk about zombies, because in the dry bones story, really Ezekiel is prophesying that these bones are going to come back to life. It's more resurrection of the
Resurrection. Yeah,
dead,
that's what I was thinking.
and that they're going to be fully human beings once again, versus dead people in kind of hopping out of their graves. On the other hand, we do have a story of this. Okay? Another Talmudic story, a story about how a magician is wandering around, messing around in a graveyard, and he comes to the grave of Rabbi Toby. Rabbi Toby ben Matana, I think
There's
is.
a Rabbi Toby.
Yeah, I swear. Yeah,
That's
yeah. It's
fantastic.
Baba Batra 58A or something. Rabbi Toby is lying in his grave, and this magician comes and starts messing around. And so Rabbi Toby reaches out of his grave and grabs the man by his beard and is holding on. And this is like perfect, scary movie. Right? He's holding on to the man's beard so long that another rabbi, Rabbi Abaye, has to come and tell Rabbi Toby, let him go. Enough already. So he lets him go. Okay. And then the man
How have I
doesn't get
not
the
heard this
picture.
story? How have I
Okay.
not heard
Doesn't
this
get the
story?
picture. And a year later comes back and is still messing around. And so Rabbi Toby reaches up, grabs the man's beard again, right, and holds on to it until the point where Rabbi Abaye has to come and bring a pair of scissors to
And
cut
cut
the
his.
man's beard
Oh my
because
gosh.
Rabbi Toby won't allow him to go. So in that case, I'd say
That's
that's a
fantastic.
pretty good zombie story.
Yes.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
fantastic.
Right?
I'd never heard
That
that
is the
before.
dead acting in society. All right, so we do our
Wow.
fourth one, and that's just plain old monsters. And here's where we have monsters. The question is, are they real monsters or are they unknown animals or strange animals? Probably the closest that we can get to is what we call the golem, right?
Right.
The golem, who is an inanimate, right, being, usually made out of clay or earth, right, that is um, amorphous at the beginning, unformed. And we actually have this in the Psalms. Golmi, my golem, is my early, unformed, amorphous shape of myself. Right? But a golem, right, is this made out of clay, and then it is formed and it is then created into a being.
And
So,
you know what's one of the things that's fascinating to me about golems in particular, I never thought of them as monsters. That's really interesting. Is that golems are not just created, they're not divine in any way. We can make them. Right?
we
This is
make
from Sanhedrin. Rava, who was a rabbi of the Sanhedrin, created a man, a golem, using forces of sanctity, that somehow we have this power to create, we can create monsters.
Yeah, that's probably the most famous is the 16th century Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Judah Loeb of Prague, who was this rabbi who, according to the story, is the Jewish people were either being banished or being killed, and he creates a golem that protects the Jewish population of Prague. And if you go to Prague even today, that story is all over,
Wow.
all over the city.
So
I'll give you, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we all know a golem. Okay, we all have a golem that we just don't realize. Frankenstein.
Oh, and yes, and
Frankenstein
he was created by a dog. Ah, that's interesting. Yeah.
and given life.
And
Okay,
golems are
and
golems soulless?
Um, well, there's some question about that because how is it that a golem is able to do what they are able to do? Is supposedly they're given a shem, right, a name, and we know that names are powerful, and that when that shem and it goes into their mouth, all right, then they're able to act, and the story is that um, the Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Judah Loeb of Prague, would every Shabbat would remove the divine, the divinity, the name um, out of the golem, and he'd slump down, and he would be able to rest over Shabbat. Okay,
Even a
and
golem
there,
needs to rest on Shabbos.
yeah, right.
Wow.
But that there are two stories with that. One was the concern that one Shabbat he forgot, right, and was concerned that the golem would go off and work, and do something that wasn't Shabbatic. Right. There's another story about how the golem falls in love and is rejected, right, and then becomes a violent monster. Okay, so there we have Frankenstein. We also have Beauty and the Beast. Right,
You're
this
ruining
I,
all of these great
I'm
Disney.
sorry, I don't mean to kill it for you,
the, the,
but I think the themes, the
yeah.
ideas, all right, if nothing else, whether we believe or don't believe in these creatures, the idea that the ideas continue through history, I think, is what's really interesting.
That's
All right,
amazing. So, all right. So we've got witches. We've got, or you didn't do witches. We have monsters. We have what are the demons,
we have
monsters,
ghosts, and we have
ghosts,
demons, and we have zombies, and we have
and monsters,
monsters.
zombies and monsters.
Yep.
So if we have all of these, it seems to make perfect sense that every Jew, it would be a Yom Tov. It would be a sacred day, Halloween, that we would all be celebrating Halloween to celebrate our demons, our zombies, and our monsters.
Yeah, except that isn't the case. All right. So there's differences of opinion on this. All right. Historically, we have avoided Halloween. Why have we avoided Halloween? Because there's a consistent historical belief that we shouldn't do what other peoples do. Right? And the fact that this Halloween, right, we don't know exactly. There are two very conflicting opinions as to how it arises. My feeling, my research is that this started as a pagan holiday. Okay, it wasn't a Christian holiday. All right, it was a Celtic pagan idea that the year is divided into two halves. Okay, roughly spring to fall, and that's the time of light, and that winter into spring is the time of darkness, and that the holidays marked the transitions between those two halves. Okay, and so there was a holiday that occurred on November 1st, okay, called Soan. Right? Soan was the precursor to Halloween. And the Catholic Church picked up on this. Right? The theme of the dead, the theme of a holiday around this particular time. And at that point, Catholicism still held on to perhaps the idea of starting a day in the evening before. So, what's the evening before November 1st?
All Hallows
October
Eve.
31st.
Yeah.
All Hallows Eve. Okay. Now they added to it the idea of taking care of the saints, All Saints Day, which was All Hallow Mess, or All Hallows Mass. They would celebrate a Mass. And that eventually became Hallow Mass, same thing as Christmas, Christmas, Christ's Mass. Well, this was Hallows Mass, which eventually becomes Halloween. Okay?
Wait, quick question. The hollow in Hallow Mas, is that, do you know the etymology of that word? I don't what
I think
hollow
it's
mean?
sacred.
Oh,
Sacred.
from like holy, hallowed.
Yeah,
Okay.
saints. All Saints Mass, All
Okay, so
Hallow
so the name Halloween is a Christian invention. The day itself has pagan
is
origins.
pagan,
I
Celtic
got you.
pagan.
Okay.
All right, in the beginning, and so all right. Now let's get to the reality because we only have a bit of time. All right. Do we celebrate this holiday?
Right.
All right. Is there and I could argue that Halloween is not a Jewish holiday. In fact, it's antithesis. It's an antithesis to Jewish values. Jewish values are about giving versus
Taking.
Halloween. We're all about
Right.
taking candy. All
Right.
right.
Wait,
Judaism is
hold on.
about
Before you tell us what we should do, let me just run by you what I did as a dad. All right. And then I'll know if I did it right or wrong. So what you just said has always really bothered me. I shouldn't say we. I very rarely go out and talk to my neighbors. That's just not the kind of guy I am. When I'm at home, I'm on the couch, and the idea that the first time that my children would meet their neighbors each year is to say, gimme, 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 always rubbed me the wrong way. So, and on top of that, it's not a Jewish holiday. So what we did in my house is, well, I should say back when my children listened to me, what we did in my house, because they don't anymore, is I told them that we're not going to celebrate Halloween, but we can absolutely help other people celebrate Halloween. So we're going to open our door. We're going to give candy out. We're going to help other people celebrate Halloween. And because you're doing a mitzvah of helping other people celebrate their holiday, every time you give candy to one person, you get to keep a piece of candy. That's how I did it.
That is a beautiful idea. I think there's nothing wrong with that until your kids say, "Why can't I go trick or treating?"
Exactly, which is exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. Yeah.
And this is where I think that if I was concerned that my children, by dressing up, were somehow going to go off the Jewish rails, then I might say, wait a second, that might not be something we want to do. Let's do a little time out here. Let's reorient. This was about being with the community. It was about having a good time. And I think that we have plenty of holidays that are American holidays, and therefore, for us to be a part of society, I don't want my kids to be divorced from society, right? Simply because whatever it is not explicitly Jewish.
Right.
I think there are plenty of things that we do.
We don't really have time to dig into this, but I would just as by way of pushback, I would say that maybe we could talk about this closer to Christmas. Is this a slippery slope, right? If we say that Halloween is an American holiday and we want to be able to participate in, is that not also true for something like Christmas? Especially given what you just taught us about the names and Hallow, Mas, and
yeah, but the problem is that none of those are observed anymore versus Christmas, which is observed by serious Christians as a religious holiday with religious implications. I think that if I was concerned that we were in some way misappropriating someone else's holiday, which is what I often think happens with Christmas. If I put up a Christmas tree in my home, I am misappropriating somebody else's religious symbol because a Christmas tree has religious symbolism, at least for people who take it seriously.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that is necessarily the case with Halloween.
Yeah.
Right? It's too far away. It's too much separation in history.
Do you keep your lights on? Do kids come to your door?
I do. Although my neighborhood, for some reason, is just not the cool neighborhood. Right? So last year, maybe I got like 3 trick-or-treaters.
Wow.
Right? That was it. Don't come to my house because we just use whatever candy that we have.
You don't buy anything special.
Because otherwise we eat it. So we don't want that.
Right. Apparently, by the way, there's going to be a candy corn shortage, I heard.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is a national
that's a tragedy.
emergency.
It is.
That
You're
is
a
a
better
tragedy.
person than I because I turn the lights off and watch Netflix while my wife takes my youngest out. I'm a terrible human being. I
Well,
learned
you have
so
better
much today.
qualities in other ways. In other
Thank
ways.
you. I appreciate that. This was really interesting. Most of the stuff I didn't know, and I learned so much. Thank you so much for your time today. That was awesome. Really, really
Um,
awesome.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. So, friends, we'll be back in a couple weeks. Make sure to check out services here at Temple Sinai. Come on site or watch us at tsnd.tv. Yeah,
And I will tell you, if you go on tsnd.tv and you miss any of these, or this is your first time tuning in, you can see our other programs.
right.
They're all there. We have a special spot for our face-to-face program, so you can scan around and find something of interest.
Check them all out. Thanks, Rabbi. See you later, everyone.